Welcome everyone to Politically High Tech with your host Elias. This is going to be episode 204. Yes, 204. I have a guest here who is an expert in Constitution. I can safely say that. Okay. And I'm sure you've heard, especially if you pay attention to more constitutionalists. I hate to sound politically biased, more right-leaning channels. The Hillshire University pops up from time to time, saying they're gonna teach you the Constitution, the Bible, Genesis, some of the courses for free. I did look up myself. So I'm just giving you a little idea what this guest is about, okay? I'm happy that he's here because I think we need to debunk the common ignorance, if I'm going to be nice, about the Constitution and why the heck the federal government is so big and how much of this is constitutional. Is that even a legitimate question? Are we rebels? Are we enemies of the state for asking this question? I don't think we should be. That should be the First Amendment. But I don't know. Some entities act like we don't have that. Let's be honest. So let's welcome Peter Serefine. So, what do you want the audience to know about you?
Ooh, about me. There's really not much to know about me. I'm just an average guy. I'm a middle-aged, middle-class white guy. I never high school education. I never went to college. I went in the Navy straight out of high school. I spent most of my life working in the restaurant world. And then about 10 years ago, I became a mailman, gave up management and wanted a job where when I got home at the end of the day, I didn't have to worry about my phone ringing all the time. I recently, in the last 5 years or so, I have become a Patriot Academy Constitution coach and an instructor for Institute on the Constitution. And I'm one of those people that believes that it was adherence to the Constitution that made us a great nation in the first 100 or so years of our country, and it is lack of adherence to the constitutional principles that is causing the downfall of our country. Meaning that returning to constitutional principles is probably our best bet at saving our nation.
I'm sure a lot of people especially on the constitutionalist group, I've talked to a few previous guests that are part of that. They make the Republicans look very liberal when it comes to constitutional adherence.
Yeah.
And how do
Well,
I
I
know
mean,
this? Because I have to talk to people. The book is not going to tell me that.
right.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, how many political candidates out there, pardon, how many political candidates out there are asking you for your vote? And when you listen to them talk, they don't really mention the Constitution. And if they do, they mention it in passing without quotations or specifics. They swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution first and foremost. So they should probably know it pretty well, but they never seem to want to reference it.
Oh no, everyone wants to push and sell a narrative, support their political team, and I hate. Well, actually, no, I don't hate. I'm gonna lie. I'm lying to you if I say that. I compare them to a sports team. Dems one up Republicans and vice versa on the narrative. Oh, you see what happens when you ban abortion? Ha ha! Look at all the victories you're getting. I say, yeah, ha ha! Your stupid policies bring all the illegal migrants to this country. Look how much I mean, it's so much partisan battle. I mean, I don't have to regurgitate this with you. I'm sure you heard this probably thousands of times. We could talk about this until the news on the rises.
Oh yeah,
That's how
most
fun it
people,
is.
if we're completely honest, most people are one or two issue voters. They have their one or two things that are really important to them, and they pick which political party they want to be affiliated with based on those one or two things, and then just kind of go along with everything else that the party has to say. And that has created the team mentality where, blue team good, red team bad, or what vice versa, whichever way. And again, no references to the Constitution. I mean, we have a current president stood at a podium and said, yeah, all of my constitutional scholars are telling me that this mortgage moratorium is unconstitutional, but I'm going to do it anyway. So he admitted that he was ignoring the constitutional to do something that he felt was right. And that is the exact opposite of what we want from an elected official. Our elected officials should say, even if it is something that they want or something that they think is a good idea, if it's outside the scope of the Constitution, the federal government can't do it. Doesn't mean your state can't do it. It means the federal government can't do it. And that's where people seem to have lost the disconnect. They want everything done at the federal level, which our government wasn't designed to be that way at all.
Yeah, and that's a huge discard and disrespect to the 10th Amendment, the separation of federal and state functions, rights, what have you. And look, I have had to restudy the Constitution because unlike most people, honestly, I'm not sure. I'm gonna look it up. I know a lot of people want to act like know-it-alls, but if you do that and all one person has to ask is a good question, is just to pop that arrogant bubble,
Mhm.
and that's going to go down into a few pieces. Okay. And you are going to feel very dumb and defeated and broken because, and then since, some people like to inhale and just that, oh, I'm going to call it copium, coping with deniability, you're going to double down, some of you, and you're just digging your own grave, figuratively speaking. Don't take me out of context. All right. So, figuratively speaking, you don't know metaphors, get a refund from your college and go to another one because some of it are hard. I'm not the most right leaning, left leaning person, but look, I have a good idea what's going on. And I think personally, when I went to college, I first came in there feeling smart. I got out there feeling dumber. I said, what is going on? That's why I stopped pursuing master's degree. I said, yeah, nah, I don't got time to just sit in the room here, some boring, out of touch, tone deaf professor that chooses to deny reality. A good amount of them do. Oh, you're anti-professors? No, but I'm just being honest. All right, I don't want to go off the rails here. I'm sure you could agree with that. But I want to know more about you. Then the audience, some of them love me, some love my voice, some of them can't stand it. That's up to them. I'm a grown man, thick skin, figuratively. So it's not gonna bother me. So why do you decide to get into politics? I mean, especially with your humble background, he could just stick to being a mailman. You want to maintain your peace, your personal peace at least. What made you get involved into, especially being a constitutional academic coach?
Yeah, well, it certainly life would be easier if I hadn't done this. I mean, this is hours every day that I could be spending with my wife and my dog, and a lot less stress in my life. But what happened was right before Donald Trump came on the scene, right before he announced he was running for president, I started to realize that the world had gone crazy and something had to change. And I felt a calling to do something about it because I swore the oath to the Constitution when I was 18, and I swore it many times after that in different roles with different organizations. And the straw that broke the camel's back, the thing that sent me over the edge was when New York and Virginia completely erased the line of when abortion could be had and said that, a woman could have an abortion right up to birth. Now, this isn't I'm not trying to be completely anti-abortion. I personally think it's wrong, but it's not my body. It's not my kid. It's not my life. I don't want to force my opinion on you. However, before that moment, most states had drawn a line somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 weeks and said that before 20 weeks, you can have one abortion. After 20 weeks, you can't, or 25 or 28 or whatever. Every state was a little different. Regardless of your opinion, whether it's reproductive health care or whether it's murder, at some point, that zygote becomes an embryo and the embryo becomes a fetus. At some point, that thing becomes a human being. And the moment that that thing is a human being, then killing it is murder. So the debate is not whether or not abortion is right or wrong. The debate should be, at what point is that a human being? And the moment that it's a human being, abortion is done. So is that when the baby takes its first breath? Well, those on the far right or far left-hand side of the aisle would probably say that when it has its first breath. And those on the far right side of the aisle are going to say, no, that happens at conception. But again, up until New York and Virginia, the general consensus was around 20 weeks. And I really think that had they not passed these laws and then became gleeful and celebratory about it, that abortion wouldn't be the issue that it is today. I think people like me would have just gone along to get along. Like, I didn't agree with abortion, but okay, we've got a law. That's what it is. Leave it alone. So that was the thing that woke me up to think that, society has gone crazy and I wanted to do something. And with the advent of self-publishing and all of the things that you can do on the internet now, writing a book was pretty easy to do. So the first thing I did was to write progress, really one man's view of social progress in America. It was my first book. It's only like 50 pages long, and I just kind of looked back at different things within my own lifetime, what they looked like when I was a kid versus what they look like today, and tried to get the reader to question at what point is progress not progress anymore. At some point, progress becomes regressive. It turns a corner and starts going the other way. And I think we've done that in a lot of areas. But I didn't say that in the book. I tried to raise questions. Almost every paragraph ends in a question in this book. That was its purpose, was to make you question.
So at least engage the reader mentally, right? And not just, spoon feed them answers or some guys are just getting this a thing, which I think I actually like those kind of books that really gets you think instead of just, because a book, just some of them are, I'm just going to use the self help. They tell you, okay, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should get this result. To be quite frank, some of them are scams.
No.
So they promise results, but the disclaimer says, oh, these results are atypical, whatever. That's how
Yeah.
that's why you gotta read the disclaimer, read the fine print. That they kind of tell you, yeah, we're just give you a flowery, rosy picture is gonna happen, even though reality could be a lot
The
more.
FDA is kind of like that, isn't it? Oh, take
Yeah,
this drug. You'll be wonderful. Side effects include.
oh, the side effect is very long, and they got to go through it real fast. We know a lot of those commercials, the
Yep.
commercials, the ads. I mean, you could just fill in the blank. Just think of a prescription commercial, right? Whatever you've seen on TV or through your smartphone. They say they could do A, B, C, and then D through Z is the side effects. They go through it real quick. Oh,
What's really funny to me.
I had this. Cause cancer. As A is like contact the doctor. Oh my goodness. I said,
You know,
why the hell do I want to
yeah,
take this?
I'm going to take a drug that's for my toenail fungus that might cause anal leakage because it's all kinds of like the side effects are far worse than what they're supposed to treat. But based on what I've seen in commercials, it looks like the fastest growing part of the pharmaceutical world is drugs to treat the side effects of other drugs. Like it's just funny to me.
And well, let's add on to that. Then there's another product for those side effects. Another product.
Mhm.
That's how they keep that cash flow
Yep.
going, and that's why they are a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean,
Mhm.
you got to connect the dots. Look, do I think certain prescriptions could help? Yes. I'm not going to be this most anti-drug whatever. I would my personal opinion, and I'm not a medical doctor. I think you should take it in extreme circumstance, but that's just me. Don't take me very seriously. It comes to that. Medical. Let me do my own disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor.
My own personal disclaimer too is, I do my best to avoid prescription medications. I don't say I'm not going to say that I never take them or have never taken them, but I try to avoid them. And if I do have to take them, I try to take them as little as possible to get over whatever it is that I'm taking them for. I'm fortunate. I'm over 50 years old and I'm not on any, long-term maintenance type medications. And I'm happy with that. And I'm very I can't think of the word, standoffish, I guess would be what anytime my doctor brings up, like he tried to suggest that maybe I needed to be on a statin medication a little while ago. So I did some research on statin medications and I'm like, no, I don't want that crap. And I started changing my diet and increasing my fiber intake and, doing all these other things. Now I don't need a statin medication. So it worked for me. I'm not saying that it's going to work for everybody out there, but one of the things about statin medications is, they're designed to lower the cholesterol in your body. Your brain is like 90% cholesterol. Do you really want to take a drug designed to remove cholesterol from your body if your brain is mostly cholesterol? I don't think so.
At the end of the day, I'm gonna sound like the abortion people. Your body, your choice. I'm just gonna quote that further.
Uh huh.
You
And
know,
I
and,
don't think it. You
yeah,
want to go have at it.
yeah. Hey, You make your own decisions. I'm not the type. Look, I'm trying to follow that path right now. Take prescriptions as little as possible because already said it. Look, they could do treat 3 things, but they got side effects already affecting 10 if they be mild about it, probably 15 to 20 if I'm going to be more extreme about it. And listen, they got its place, it got its purpose. It's situational, in my opinion, but you shouldn't be, in my honest opinion, you take them every single day unless you have a very severe condition. But in the end,
There are certain conditions that require medication
yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
I'm fortunate that I don't have one of those conditions, but there's an awful lot of people out there, like 2/3 of American adults are on prescription medications. I think there's a lot of those people that could get off of them if they tried. If they change their diet or change their exercise or I don't know, got some sunshine for Christ's sakes. There's a lot of people that are on drugs they don't need to be on.
yeah. I mean, that's why I personally, that's one of my struggles, right? Is find times to go out more, exercise more. Well, it's tough, but hey, your body's just gonna shut down you eventually, and it's just gonna rebuild to the point that
Yeah.
with the why you got diabetes, hypertension, all these other medical conditions. Look, it's tough. I get it, but we got to make it a priority if you care about living, especially not just for yourself, but for those who care for you. Okay, because your death is going to impact them more than your co-workers. Believe me, a lot of them don't care. It's harsh for me to say that. The bad 99% of them don't care. Be lucky to find one that actually does care. Okay, just be brutally honest.
Yeah.
And okay, you find good people. Yes, you can find good people, but not a lot of people don't have your best interest. A lot of people got their own problems, and they're very absorbed by it. All right, I don't want to. Oof, I'm kind of derail this with medical and all that other stuff. But
I'm good at derailing conversations.
yeah, no, yeah. So far, whew, you proven that. Oof. And I'm a derailing myself. And they know that. They go, oh, yeah, you're derailing too. All right, so well, we already touched this a little bit, especially with Big Pharma. How and why our government has become so big? Because we keep adding extra agencies to do a certain function that was not originally intended in the Constitution. I mean, you give an elaborate answer. You're the expert, not me.
Well, there's if you open up a copy of the Constitution, which I have several around me, and you read the powers of Congress, which is Article 1, Section 8. There are 17, actually, there's 18 bullet points, 18 clauses. There are 17 of them that are giving a power to Congress. This is something that Congress is supposed to do. And then there's the 18th one that kind of says, whatever it takes to make these things happen. We, the people, have neglected a warning well, 2 warnings. One from John Jay. There's a quote from John Jay, who I think is one of the most underrated of the founding fathers. John Jay was author of several of the Federalist Papers, 5, I think, maybe 7. I don't know. Several Federalist Papers, and he was also the first Chief Justice of the United States. And John Jay said, it's the duty of the citizen of a state to read and study the Constitution of his country, to teach the rising generation to be free, to know their rights so that they will better perceive when their rights are being violated. We don't read and study the Constitution. Not only do we not do it in school, we don't do it as adults. Most of us don't do it as adults either. So government is evil. Everybody has known that government's evil. Aristotle knew government was evil. Socrates knew government was evil. Our founding fathers definitely knew that government was evil. So why didn't we pay attention? And we did. So every time the government would say, well, we're going to do this, we were like, all right, whatever. And every once in a while, we'd give them a slap and say, no, that's too far. But not very often. So for the first 100 years or so, we had people in Washington, D.C., who still really believed in the Constitution, and they would slap down those expansive, crazy ideas before they ever became departments and agencies. But in the last 100, 110, 120 years, we've lost almost all of those people in government. And everybody in government now, red, white, red or blue, either team, donkeys or elephants, they all want to spend more money than we have. They all want to regulate everything that under the sun. And as an illustrative example, I said there were 17 powers listed in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. There are 440 federal departments and agencies. If Congress has 17 jobs, why are there 440 departments and agencies and offices to manage 17 jobs? Well, the answer is obviously Congress is doing far more than they were supposed to do. And that brings me to the second warning. And it's a very lengthy quote. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but Madison, James Madison in 1792. In 1792, when he was a member of the House of Representatives, 1 year after the Bill of Rights was ratified, the codfish industry in the Northeast was going under, and Congress was considering bailing it out. Now, they didn't call it a bailout back then, but that's basically what it was. They were considering bailing out this codfish industry because it was too big to fail. And Madison stood on the floor of the House and basically said uh, Congress was trying to use the general welfare part of the Constitution as the reason to do it. Madison, the guy who wrote down the Constitution, the penman of the Constitution, who clearly knew what it originally meant, stood in the House of Representatives and says, I've always taken the general welfare to being attached to the powers listed before it. And if we in Congress can spend money indefinitely on the general welfare, and we're the guys who say what the general welfare is, then Congress can take over education. We could hire teachers in every town and school and parish in the country and pay them out of public money. We can take over roads, not just the post roads. In short, we can take over anything we want to. So Madison was giving this big warning in 1792. And for about 100 years, people remembered that warning. Right about 1913, we threw that warning away and just ran crazy with our government.
I really hope you gain this, listeners. I think there's always a very few that give such a visionary level warning. They can foresee 100, even 200 years that something bad's going to happen. But the only thing I would like to add is I just think it's also ignorance and laziness of the people
Yeah.
that contribute a lot to this. And I could probably say, because I talk politics with a lot of people, when I say the Constitution, 9 out of 10 don't know what in the world I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And that was a mind blowing to me. I said, so you just treat this as a history homework and this was the way?
They really don't pay attention, which is baffling to me, because the Declaration of Independence, the true founding document of our country, Thomas Jefferson says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Right there in the opening of the Declaration of Independence is the purpose of government. But ask any politician what the purpose of government is, and I bet not one of them will quote the Declaration of Independence to you.
No, they come with their own answer and try to become a celebrity style politician.
Right.
Just to get clicks and look. Sadly, it's devolved to that much. Social media has done a lot of damage in politics. I mean, it was very dysfunctional, but it just put extra steroids on the dysfunctionality. Mm-hmm. I could say with confidence, I talked to enough people, I did my own analysis, and I still come with the same conclusion. I try to even challenge it. Nope, it gets strengthened every time. Sadly, a few people who are very intelligent in getting attention, they're not the brightest people, but they're great at getting attention, influence. Mm-hmm. They spread that misinformation, and I'm just trying to develop my influence to just try to counter. So that, especially among certain people, I had to target my age group and some of the older age group and some of the younger ones, whatever I could get, is because there's just so much misinformation spread for the young, my generation, and the more older, experienced generation as well on some issues. Now, I don't know. I gotta be careful when I say the older generation, because they can be very knowledgeable in this one area, but they can be very ignorant on another area. But I digress. I'm not gonna go any further with that. People. The Constitution is very important. It is, what's a buzzword? A living document. Hey, that's a buzzword we're going to use, because we're using that so much in modern culture. Living document.
That's and that's kind of ridiculous when you think about what they're saying. When somebody says that anything is a living document, what they're saying is that the meaning of the words in the document can change with the times. Okay, let's play that game for a minute. Let's say that the written word changes meaning as time passes. So if I'm reading, let's see here, what do I have sitting on the shelf over here? If I'm reading The Three Musketeers, and it talks about how Porthos picked up a faggot and put it under his arm to take back to his apartment. Well, what's that mean today? You have to know that was that 15th, 14th century? I forget when that was. A faggot was a bundle of sticks, usually meant for burning.
Mm-hmm.
You can't apply modern definitions to it. And the same holds true with the Constitution. When you find the words in the Constitution, regulate, for example, Congress has the power to regulate trade between the states. Well, in the 18th century, the word regulate meant to keep regular, not to pile on ridiculous rules and regulations, arbitrary laws, meant to keep it moving. I write again. I'm a high school educated, middle class nobody. I write everything I write. I've written 4 books now. I write a weekly opinion article on my Substack, Liberty Lighthouse. Everything I write so that the average guy can understand. I don't pile footnotes and academic language and nonsense, and I try not to confuse anybody. I write as simple as I can. And my second book was so simple, even a politician can understand. Simple ideas for seemingly complex political issues. This book was recently listed as one of the best politician books of all time by bookauthority.org. An award I'm immensely proud of. But it's just what it says it is. It's simple ideas that would really go a long way to fixing some of our biggest political issues. But they're too simple. Congress will never do them because they can't attach pork spending to them because they're too simple. They can't attach, favors and kickbacks, and they can't use them for leverage against the other team because they're too simple. That's where we, the people, have to stand up and demand the simple solutions.
That's profound. Look, I don't care what degree the authors have, but if you could get if you could get readers to understand what you have put on the book, the contents you put in the book, that's a successful. You already got an award for it. I mean, you don't need me to confirm that.
I just found that award like a week ago too. I'm so excited I found that.
So look, you don't have to have 3 PhDs to write and also book it. To be honest, I've met a couple of PhDs. Some of them are not very impressive. No, and I'm being honest. I respect education just like anybody else, but certain highly educated people I met, yeah, some are so out of touch with reality. Some can't even write well. I mean, you already written a book. That's that's a writing skill. Even though you have a high school education. For me personally, I don't care what degree you got. If you have something that's compelling for me, I'm gonna take it. So I'm not gonna look at Peter Serefine. Oh, he don't got a PhD. He don't have a bachelor's degree. I'm not gonna read him. That's an elitist mindset. And
It
sadly,
is.
it's prevalent in. I have to call out my city, New York City. It's pretty prevalent there. What's this country bumpkin writing about the Constitution? He knows more than me.
But the
The heck with
Constitution,
that. Yeah.
that's the funny part about it is the Constitution, when it was written, over half of the men in the room that wrote this thing were attorneys. They're lawyers. But read it. Anybody can read it. Even though half of the people involved were lawyers, they wrote it in language that the 18th century farmer could understand because it's for we, the people. It's not for the government. The Constitution is for us. It is our tool against a tyrannical government, but it's a tool that we've forgotten how to use.
Yep, because we're just too busy just dumping everything on the federal government. And then if we have extra free time on the state government, if we have nothing better to do with the local government, just run wild and become very, ever expansive with their extra agencies, extra regulations. And, I like how you use that word. I mean, the bundle sticks back there. I already know you was going with that. That's why I didn't even react. I said, "Oh, I already know he's going with this." But sadly, I
You
used to
can do that
say
with
the
anybody. I
average.
mean, you
Yeah,
can go through Shakespeare and you can find words that have
yeah,
have changed meaning so dramatically over the years that they're shocking. You can't apply a modern definition just because it's the modern times. You want to change the Constitution? There's a process for that
yeah. And it's a very difficult one to achieve at that because
on purpose.
yeah, on purpose. Yeah, because they already know. I think eventually, bunch of if I'm going to use a nice word, inept, out of touch people get in government. I mean, they're gonna need to have 2/3 of each part. Yeah, each part. Yeah, each. Why
House
am I
of
crazy?
Congress.
Yes, House of Congress. Yeah, both of them. House of Representatives and the Senate. You know how hard is this to get 51 votes on anything these days?
Let alone 60, 66.
Oh yeah, 66 for a Senate, and I keep forgetting the number. I think it's close to like 280 for the House. Forget they could barely get 220 or 230. I think the most I've seen is like 250. Unless it's something as stupid as milk. Yeah, you could get easy 300 or something. Like laws on milk, something stupid that most people
Oh
don't
yeah.
care. They get like 300 people in the House of Representatives. And then, of course, the president has to agree with it. And then
Actually, the
it's
president has nothing to do with an amendment.
oh, oh
The
yeah.
president does not have to do anything with an amendment. It has to get through both houses of Congress, both
Mhm.
the House and the Senate with a 2/3 majority, and then 3/4 of the state legislatures have to agree to it. So right now, if Congress were to put a constitutional amendment through, and they actually got that 2/3 threshold in both houses, and it went out to the states, 38 states would have to agree to it before it could become an amendment to the Constitution.
You could barely get 27 states to agree on something. So,
Nope.
you know what? Actually, yeah, I'm happy that you actually correct. I keep forgetting what process that was with that. Oh, I gotta
And
stop
then,
that.
of course, there's the Article 5 Convention of States. So Article 5 of the Constitution describes how the Constitution is amended. And there's two ways. There's the way that we just described. And then the second way is if 2/3 of the states demand a convention, then the states can get together and propose amendments, but then they still have to get ratified by 3/4 of the states. So you can bypass Congress and do it without them, but there's pros and cons. It's never been done in our country. It's been tried a couple of times, and every time it gets close, then the government usually backs off and acquiesces and gives in to whatever it is that is causing the ruckus. The first one I think was South Carolina, a little before the Civil War, was protesting some new tariffs that the government had put in, and they started to clamor for a convention of states, and eventually the federal government cut the tariffs enough that South Carolina said, okay, we can live with that.
Okay, as long as I get a little something. Yep. I mean that. Yeah, I can't come up with a historical example that has been achieved that way. I do follow news for the Convention of States, so I have a good grasp what you're talking about. For some of you listeners that don't understand this, listen, the states have a lot of power. That's why you have to stop dismissing the state level governments. They are
Yeah.
very important part of the process. I think a lot of people forget that because just like you said, we want to dump everything in the federal government. Federal government. Oh, it passes the federal government. Federal government, especially in mainstream media too. A lot of focus federal government, Congress,
I
and
personally, I think the county sheriff is the most important elected job in the country. Your county sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of your county, which means your county sheriff has the authority to tell the federal government, no, we're not going to enforce that unconstitutional law in our county, and I'm not going to let you do it either.
yeah, I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think was it something happened in Arizona? I think one of them that tried to stop some federal law. I think that it was considered overreaching. I mean, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't talk about that either, and that's something I'm gonna admit I'm not most ignorant, but that's why I'm happy to have guests like you. I'm a learner just like
Well,
everybody else.
a good Supreme Court case to check into on in that realm, if your listeners want to do a little bit of their own research. It was in the mid 1990s. I don't remember the exact year, but the mid 1990s, and it was Mac Prince v. U.S. It was or Mac Prince v. Clinton. Anyway, it was Sheriff Mack and Sheriff Prince, and at this time, it was one of the Brady laws, Brady handgun bill laws, had required that the sheriffs be responsible for performing background checks for firearm sales. And of the 3,000 sheriffs in our country, like six of them said, no, you can't make us do that. And they went all the way to the Supreme Court and won their case. And the Supreme Court said that the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer. And therefore, if you want to run background checks, then you can run background checks, but you can't make him do it. And think of some of these like really, really rural neighborhoods where the sheriff might be the only law enforcement in the county. And now you want him to run federal background checks on firearm purchases? Like, It seems a little bit of a stretch.
I hope you're in learning mode because I'm certainly learning, and this should be one of my models. My ego is fair game when it comes to being shot, killed, murder, exploding the smithereens.
I love learning.
So that's all I'm gonna say about that. I never protected my ego, not once. Even now, I don't mind being corrected because, like I said, I'm in a learning mode just as much as you. I'm just more of a guider slash provider. I think that's makes me a little different for you, listeners. You're just becoming sponges, or you may have me, or you may question this, and I think that's fine. I think you should question some of this. But you know what? A lot of them are actually true. Just because it's weird to you, you never heard of it. It doesn't make it untrue. It's just you're not aware of it. It's just a lack of awareness. The federal government has increased exponentially throughout the history of this country.
You want an example of that?
Oh, go ahead. This is your
In
wheel.
1913, remember I said 1913 is
Yep.
the year that I think that the federal government started to really ignore the Constitution and took off doing their own thing. Other than postal workers, in 1913, there were 388 federal employees total, civilian federal employees, non-elected civilian federal, 388. So if you do the math based on the population at the time, that would have been one federal employee for every 250,000 U.S. citizens. You know what that ratio is today? There are 2.9 million, 2.952 million civilian federal employees, which works out to be one civilian federal employee for every 115 American citizens.
Whoa.
How can how can you know how can that be sustainable? If there's one federal employee for every 115 American citizens, that means there's one federal employee for about every 80 taxpayers. So 70 or 80 people are paying that one guy's salary in their taxes as well as paying everything else. And it's just not sustainable.
Oof, my goodness, that number is just staggering. Ooh, I knew it grew, but I was going 100,000. We already hit the millions.
2.952.
Damn. Oh, beginners listener, especially if you are anti-limited government, you haven't done a good job. Anything and kept expanding, expanding, expanding. I hate to break it to you. I hate to break it to you. Oh man, I think this is why this is a good transition. How is the Liberty Lighthouse classroom or academy? I'm just gonna call it. This is gonna help us at least gain an understanding and even challenge this ever expanding federal and to even some extent state government because they're expanding too.
Oh yeah, they have. All right. So my personal brand is the Liberty Lighthouse, and my homepage is liberty-lighthouse.com, liberty-lighthouse.com. And if you go to that homepage, you can click on classroom. So that's the Liberty Lighthouse classroom, and I have about 18 hours worth of courses on the Constitution there right now. They're all Institute on the Constitution courses so far, but I do plan on putting up my own courses as well as Patriot Academy courses and maybe even some Hillsdale College courses. But it's about 18 hours worth of courses that are there now. There's one about the sheriff and the citizen. There's one about the power of and duty of a jury. There's one about the truth of America's founding, the Christian heritage of our country. Whether we want to admit it or not, it's there and it's provable. So those are there, and there will be more coming. I had too many things going all at once, and I actually had to stop my radio show, and I paused the classroom while I promote the new book and do dozens and dozens of these interviews.
Well, hey, I'm gonna use the other buzzword a lot of people like to use: grind and hustle. That's all it's gonna take just to spread the word, do all that. You're definitely gonna get. I'll be surprised to get at least one or two, or maybe even more, listening to this. And just to join you because, sir, I do attract certain people, and even though I haven't figured out their political orientation, I think I'm a bit varied on that. But I'm sure a lot of them could agree that this country is going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
How the details where the debate is at, a lot of people just say, "Look, this country's going very, very." Is going off the rails. Rather you're a Trump or a Biden supporter, that's irrelevant. Whoever wins this presidential election is going to inherit probably the greatest chaos probably since Civil War. I want to be wrong, but the way it's heading,
Yeah, I don't like where we're headed. but we have a chance. There's signs and symbols out there that are showing that maybe we've reached the end of the cliffhanging and we're about to turn around. But there's also signs out there that we're still running full speed ahead in other directions, and it's just outright scary. But in addition to the Liberty Lighthouse Classroom, I also do my weekly Substack articles, the weekly opinion pieces. It's libertylighthouse.substack.com. Those are free. If you want to subscribe with money or be a paid supporter and send me a few dollars, then you get them a little earlier. But everybody, I don't hide anything from free subscribers. You just have to wait a little while for it. So please, I would love if everybody would just go to libertylighthouse.substack.com and hit the subscribe for free button. Just get the word out.
Yep. I mean, the ignorance is a good thing I was able to correct a couple of coworkers and they're thinking because the ignorance of the Constitution and even how the government work is very scary. And I'm not talking about Orwellian crazes because we're already heading over there with the laziness, ignorance of just these very important documents. I know we said the living document it's ridiculous, but I still believe that it is. Until the whole thing is irrelevant, it's dead, it loses life. I don't want that to happen because that's the death of the nation right there, right? And then it's gonna go haywire, anarchy is gonna flourish. Oh, yeah, but just start learning the Constitution. You'd be surprised how many rights you have. You're not as powerless as you think. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, because knowledge, well, applied knowledge, I'm going to say is power, not just knowledge itself. Applied knowledge. Because I heard knowledge is power, but yeah, if you don't use it, you're still powerless. You may know more the Constitution than the next person, but if you don't use it, you're powerless. It's like, what's the point? It could just fall apart. Okay.
Well, we've all heard the phrase, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any rights. But that holds true the same way. If you don't assert your rights, you don't have any. You can't assert them unless you know them. But if you don't assert them, you don't have them.
Oh, that's exactly right. You're not going to hear me debate Peter on that one because that is the exact truth. That's bullseye accurate truth right there. Not relative truth. I hate the term my truth. I'm so tired of hearing that. My truth, your truth. No. You're just straight.
Use the Declaration for that too. Remember what I said at the beginning. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Right there. Founding fathers said that our country is founded on absolute truth, that there is such a thing as absolute truth. We hold these truths to be self-evident.
You see, that's a document. What I'm referring to, that's different. That makes it official. What I'm talking about is the people's,
Oh, I know.
selfish, idiotic. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
I know, but anybody who's in government who believes in the whole your truth, my truth, lived truth, black, white, blue, purple truth, whatever, I don't know. Anybody who's in government that believes that stuff is ignoring the foundational document of our nation.
Yep. Absolutely. And they should just, if they're honest, they either change their ways or they should just not be in the job. But that's wishful thinking. They love the power. They love the pay is not that impressive based on what I heard, but they love the
The
power.
pay's not, but the kickbacks seem to be good since they all get rich while they're sitting there.
Oh, the kickbacks. Oh, that's how a lot of them got rich. And I'm gonna clown one for each side. Miss Lovely Nancy Pelosi for the left. Oh, for the right, Mr. Daniel Crenshaw. I'm sure there's many more. But I'm just being fair, take both sides of the aisle with that. Both are very, very both parties are equally corrupt when it comes to that. Those kickbacks and
I would agree. All right. I want to talk about the new book though, because I think the new book that I've got coming out on May 1st, I think this one is even better than the one that I wrote that got into work. This book, it's Trust Shattered Cases of Government Betrayal. It's like 45 examples of where government has just completely betrayed the trust of we the people. And it's 45 examples that I divided into John Locke's immutable categories of life, liberty, and property. So betrayed bodies, the first part of the book, is a whole bunch of examples where the federal government either failed to protect us in the world of medicine and healthcare or was outright out to get us in that area. And everything in this book is easily provable fact. No conspiracy theories. No, it's all things that our government has been caught doing and admitted to doing. So there's no question these things all happen. Now, I tried to write Trust Shattered in such a way that if you're like me and you don't trust government, then you're right. But if you like me and you don't trust government, you're going to read this book and maybe you'll learn a thing or two. But I really tried hard to write it in such a way that you can hand it to your most progressive or liberal friend, family, coworker, and they might not agree with you after they read it, but hopefully they'll be able to read it and come out the other side and at least understand your perspective. So if you know somebody who thinks that, universal health care is the right way to go and the government is the only way we can have free health care for everybody, well, then let them read part 1 of this book where it talks about, when our federal government sprayed bacteria on 750,000 citizens just to see how it would spread, or studying syphilis in 600 people for 30 years after there was a cure for syphilis just to see how it affected them, or I don't know, radiating pregnant women just to see how the radiation affected the babies, or Agent Orange from Vietnam, a known carcinogen, but it's supposed to knock the leaves off the trees. So let's try it. All of these things. Anybody who reads part 1 of this book and comes out the other side and says, nope, I don't care. The government's the only way to get free healthcare and healthcare is a human right. They're gone. You're never going to convince that person of anything. Just stop talking about that with them.
Yep, you gotta accept the reality that you're not gonna change all minds.
Right.
That's just truthful. Yeah, and I call those the far gone people.
Yeah.
Yep, and then for the right, okay, Donald Trump is your king, your guy, whatever. Okay, for them
Yeah.
too.
Nope. It's not a person. Stop looking for a savior. You got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Read the Constitution, study it yourself, teach it to others, and then act on what you've learned.
Yep, that's exactly right. This is I'm gonna be very transparent. That's gonna be my next book purchase.
I appreciate
I
that.
want to see. I want to support great work. I already bought some books. Some people may think I am right leaning. I don't. Yeah, right. Certain issues I am. When it comes to trust of government, I definitely went to the right as a kid. I was definitely on the left. But oh yeah, my pendulum went to the right. So, oh yeah. I mean, all those examples you give, and he is not Alex Jones, so I don't want to hear that insult. Those would be disingenuous and stupid, and I'm just going to dismiss you too. You're far gone. Oh, Peter is just Alex Jones. Just you sound more sophisticated than normal. So, no, stop. You haven't read the book. You're smearing. It's stupid. The argument, it has zero relevance and zero truth. You have absolute zero truth with that statement. Okay, you could disagree.
Well, the only place
Go ahead.
you can pre-order the ebook right now, just about anywhere you buy ebooks. But the only place you can pre-order a physical copy is on my website, trustshattered.com.
Oh, that's what I'm going to. That's what I'm going to.
It's in paperback and hardcover. You can get either one. If you buy it now, if you pre-order it, I'll sign it for you if you like. And I have I've got a few of these left. This is an indexed copy of the U.S. Constitution, where in the back, is a reference where you can look up something like new states may be admitted by Congress into this union. Well, that is in Article 4, Section 3, Clause 1. So then you turn to the front and you find Article 4, Section 3, Clause 1, and you can read more. So it's an indexed version of the Constitution. Very handy tool if you actually want to learn about the Constitution. And I have a few more copies of this, and I'll throw that in with any physical book sales or pre-orders until they're gone.
Yep. So, order while supplies last kind of thing.
Yeah. I think I've got about 10 left.
All right. So hurry it up. Oh, what are you doing? Don't wait. Go. Be like those crazy people who goes to, the stock market. Just bum rush everybody. Go get your
Bye.
Yeah. Do it real down. Use all your shortcuts. Your shortcuts to the keyboard. Come on, just do it.
Well, I want to thank you very much for having me on. And it's been a pleasure. And I would love to come back on and talk the Constitution anytime you're ready.
Oh, yeah. Yep, no problem. So, all right. Take care. So, all right, listeners. If you enjoy this episode, give a like, share, subscribe, or follow for Rumble. And then, leave a comments, tell me what you think. The only one I don't want to see is Peter's the next Alex Jones. He laughed because he knows it's ridiculous, but some of you really believe that, or you're just trolling. So, share this with someone who believes needs education or expanding horizons. All right. And I want you to do that. That will mean a lot to me. And then for those who are listening, if you paid it, if I want to give you the picture of his upcoming book. It has a White House with a shattered glass, and the shattered pieces, pieces that is broken. You can just see the White House, okay, and that's the guest's latest book. He's an author. He already wrote multiple books. If you notice his evolution, he started writing very small, but more simplistic art, one color, multicolor to like full color, nicer, more sophisticated cover like you see with his latest book. So there's definitely evolution. Give him a shot. That's all I'm saying. So for those who are skeptical of government, or you think you can convince your progressive leftist friend, get the book. Get the book. So for the listeners, let me pay attention to you now. If you listen to this to Apple Podcasts, please give me a star review. If it's a 5-star, the writing part is optional. A lot of you tend to write anyways. If it's less than 5-star, I'd like to know why am I getting a 5-star. Don't write something short and vague. I think that's just not very helpful. Okay. For Spotify, I don't know when they have updated their review system. Just leave a star review. Hopefully it's a 5-star. If not, I totally get it. So from wherever you're listening to this podcast, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.